It's my pleasure to welcome you all to the 2024 Distinguished Faculty Awards Ceremony. My name is Bill Tierney, a member of the Hobart class of 1990 and a parent of a William Smith 2020 alumna. I also serve as the Hobart Alumni Association co-chair of the Distinguished Faculty Awards Committee with my good friend Tempe Newsom-Landy, who could not be here today. This past October, during Homecoming and Family Weekend, we had the honor of recognizing Professor Emeritus of History Dan Singal and Professor Emeritus of Sociology Dunbar Moody. Today, I'm proud to stand before you as we prepare to celebrate the late Professor Emerita of Physical Education, Mary Ellen Hosking, and Professor Emeritus of Economics, Alan Frischman. I'd also like to take a few moments to recognize other members of the joint DFA committee. Dave Fisher from the class of 2010, Lawrence Moultrie from the class of 2004, Audrey Platt from 2021, and and the backbone of this whole program, Melissa Fazola-Gorsinski. And lastly, we do have one other previous award recipient of the Distinguished Faculty Award, Pat McGuire, and if I'm missing anybody, I apologize.
The Distinguished Faculty Award was established in 1990 by the Hobart Alumni Association and the William Smith Alumni Association. This joint award of the associations recognizes the importance that graduates of Hobart and William Smith colleges place on the contributions of outstanding faculty members of the past for their impact as teachers, mentors, and scholars. Nominations for the award are sought by all alumni and alumni and are professors who are retired or who have moved on from Hobart and William Smith for more than 5 years or who are deceased. One of the original committee members noted, quote, "It is our way of recognizing and honoring those who were our mentors, who molded us and nurtured us during our intellectual awakening, who taught us our limits and challenged our capabilities, and who inspired the best in us. More than anything else, during our college years, outstanding teachers made the experience so valuable, and we recognize these professors as worthy of particular distinction and honor." Our two recipients today not only had an outstanding number of votes from the Hobart and William Smith community, but had deeply moving stories and anecdotes about the impact they had on the lives of their students. I'd like to now introduce Sally Webster, a William Smith 1974 graduate who is here celebrating her 50th reunion. Sally also served as an Associate Director of Admissions and is the Director of Special Gifts in the Office of Advancement here at the colleges. Sally will share with us her reflections of the late Professor Emerita Mary Ellen Hosking, who was also a parent of 74, who devoted herself for 24 years to the William Smith Athletics Program and was a founding member of the Heron Society. Sally?
Thanks, Melissa. Educator and advocate. How fitting we honor Mary's legacy today with the Distinguished Faculty Award, as this April, as Melissa mentioned, the Heron Society recognized its founding 40 years ago and acknowledged the women and men who were present at its beginning. Mary was the engine pulling that initiative, developing policy and operations, always with the good of the students and college at hand, intentionally and fundamentally kind. Hosking made a tangible difference for the students and colleagues she taught, coached, and encouraged. For many years, real support from Hobart and William Smith was a tale of the haves and have-nots, dedicated to helping young women grow, participate, and achieve. Mary deployed the resources she had, making athletic experiences recreational and competitive, the best she could for all. Mary Ellen Morgan graduated in 1953 with a BS in physical education from the State University College at Cortland and started her career as a high school physical education instructor in New York State, Florida, and guidance counselor and PE instructor at Oakland City College in California. She earned her MA in education from the University of Colorado. Mary's relationship with these colleges spans 3 decades, starting in 1963, when Marcia Wynne and Janet Seeley offered her a position as a member of the William Smith Department of Physical Education. Now there were 3. Back in the day, departmental positions also carried faculty rank. When Mary was hired, Louis Hirshon was president, and Helen Heath reigned as Dean of William Smith. When Professor, you gotta love that. When Professor Hosking retired in 1987, she had served as tennis coach, chairperson of the William Smith Department of Physical Education, Recreation, and Dance, William Smith Athletic Director, and worked with 5 presidents, 7 William Smith deans. Never one to invoke immunity from service, her Hobart and William Smith committee work included the grievance panel, the Senate Committee on Students, the Hobart Dean's Committee, the William Smith Dean's Committee, the Committee on the Colleges, and the Women's Studies Committee. With a little help from her friends, Mary's students and colleagues will paint a picture of her legacy. Christy Hayes, William Smith 71. She bridged the pre- and post-Title IX eras, never leaving any doubt about her belief in women's sports during her tenure at William Smith. When I arrived at William Smith in the fall of 1967, there was a swimming squad. We weren't a team the way Hobart fielded a men's swim team. My freshman year, Mary took the squad identity one step further and decided to take me to the state meet as a one-woman swim team. Quoted from a 1968 article in the then Geneva Times, last weekend at Cornell, Christie represented William Smith as the only entry in the 4th annual state invitation swimming meet. 200 girls from 13 colleges were on hand. Miss Hayes scored 11 points, placing William Smith in 8th place with a 5th place in individual standings. Mrs. William Hoskins said, "This was quite a feather in Christie's cap as the competition was tough and the meet grueling. I can still hardly believe the results." Mary remained a dear friend after I graduated. I love that she never stopped advocating for all women. I was enormously proud to be part of the charter class of the Heron Hall of Honor inductees along with Mary. She and I shared a dedication to volunteer work, and when I visited campus as part of the Heron Society board, we often talked about her wonderful work with the Red Cross. Pat Genovese, then Pat Price, was hired in 1971. In Pat's words, "My supervisor and best friend, in her heart a true people person who motivated herself and those around her to make a contribution. Mary never stood still. She took a chance on a green person, me. Looking back, I realized she had a very full plate. Mary served as a member of a range of organizations from the state to national level, supporting athletics and access for women. She was astute about the value of attending clinics and conferences. When Pat and I discussed this honor for Mary, I asked her about some funny stories. She laughed and said, "Oh, there are so many. Here's one." And this is Pat telling the story. From an athletic and job fair conference in New Hampshire, Mary was looking for a new hire. My colleague Cindy Muffley and I were too inexperienced to conduct interviews, so Mary did all the talking to dozens of applicants. She was beat by the end of the day. After we got back, Mary decided to bring one of the candidates to campus, and we put her up at the Chanticleer. Or the Chanticleer. As we had arranged, the candidate was to wait in front of the motel where we would pick her up for a day of campus interviews. When we zoomed up 5 and 20, me at the wheel, there was a candidate standing outside as planned. Out of the blue, Mary said to me, "Don't stop. Keep on driving." I said, "What?" "Keep going." "Why?" Mary said, "I made a mistake." But Mary, we just can't leave her there. So we turned around, picked her up, and once back in the office, Mary called the campus people who were to do interviews and said, keep it short. Alice Ann Wilbur. I have been ever grateful that Mary Hosking was willing to take a chance on me, a raw, unproven entity, to serve as the first coach of the William Smith soccer program. And I have been ever grateful as well that she was the type of athletics director who allowed raw, unproven coaches the time and opportunity to develop. Title IX was flexing its wings when I began coaching at William Smith. And as a young female entering a profession in the college arena and in a sport dominated by men, I looked to Mary for mentorship and guidance. She was unflappable and quick to laugh. Mary gave us, Pat Genovese, Susan Bassett, and me, a place at the proverbial table. I rarely recall her saying no to ideas or proposals that we coaches brought to her. She sought and got institutional support for funding to recruit, a game changer for our department. Because she placed her trust in us and gave us the freedom to try, fail, or succeed and learn from the consequences, we grew as coaches. The young women that we coached became serious competitors. Our teams gained regional and national prominence. The conflux of the awareness for women's rights and empowerment created by Title IX by William Smith College, already solidly in that camp, with Mary's leadership, served as the base in building the fierce, proud, and highly competitive William Smith sports programs that we know today. From Sue Dongle Cooley, William Smith class of '81 tennis player, Mary made it her mission to increase opportunities for the women of William Smith, and with a larger collegiate circuit, in her own easygoing, unpretentious, and respectful manner, Coach Hosking molded endless groups of young girls into cohesive teams of strong, independent, and responsible women. She had an innate ability to perceive the personal, academic, and athletic strengths of each young woman she had contact with, and thus was able to guide them towards unique, individual, and common team goals. Mary Hosking was simultaneously an outstanding coach, mentor, teacher, advocate, friend, and at times even a surrogate mom. I feel fortunate to have known Mary Hosking and to have had the honor of interacting with her in so many positive aspects of her incredible career. About Mary as a tennis player, Pim Larson-Kovac, from her days in the chemistry department in the early 80s, has this to say: I remember how well she placed the ball and made her opponent, me, run like a rabbit. Much later in her retirement, following surgery and treatment, Mary played doubles, and we were often partners. Again, she knew how to place the ball, but couldn't run much, so it was, it's yours. From Martha Wilson, community member and friend, Mary hired me to officiate sports that I was not qualified to do when I was a college sophomore. There's a theme here. Mary gave people a chance. In the late 60s, Mary married Bill Hosking, a professor of economics and recent widower. Mary gained not only a husband, but a cherished stepson and a cherished link to the Geneva community. Bill died 6 years after their marriage. When he passed, he was mayor of Geneva. The Geneva community embraced Mary, and Mary responded. Mary lived community service long before it became a buzzword on college campuses. Some of you might remember those campus-wide cocktail parties on Friday afternoons at Emerson Hall in the 70s. Mary organized those parties with her tennis team. Students, staff, and faculty participated. The profits benefited the Geneva Community Chest. Mary served as co-chair of the Geneva 1976 Bicentennial Committee with her friend Frank Filano. Mary worked with the Citizens for Recreation Improvement and was an important force in building the Geneva Recreation Complex, now known to all of you as the Cooler. When the Geneva Rotary Club began taking women as members, Mary was right there as the second woman inducted into the club. She became a Paul Harris Fellow, A longtime member of the Geneva League of Women Voters, Mary received the Agnes Slauson Lewis Award for Community Service. Mary was also very engaged in the Zonta Club and Planned Parenthood of the Finger Lakes. In retirement, Mary embraced a new position as director of the Geneva chapter of the Red Cross. Mary not only served locally, but was also involved in many disaster relief efforts throughout the country and in the Caribbean. Hopefully, somewhere, Mary is looking down on all of you, all of us, with one of her muddled Southern Comfort old fashions in hand, and involving the person next to her that she just met in one of her many projects. Look around. The Hosking Award, named in honor of Mary and Bill Hosking for their service to the colleges, recognizes distinguished former student athletes for outstanding lifetime achievement in their field of work. The award's first recipient, in 2003, is Valerie Flournoy, here for the classes of 70 50th reunion. Come to the tennis courts this fall and watch as a host of women's tennis teams compete in the annual Mary Hosking Invitational. Thank you, DFA committee, for including Mary Hosking in this distinguished company of Hobart and William Smith faculty members. There are a few others who would like to say a few words, so if I can call your attention to the screen.
Professor Hosking was the very first faculty member that I met on my second day arriving on campus. I wanted to speak with her about joining the tennis team, having been a varsity player in high school. Well, Professor Hosking had me at hello. She was so warm, so welcoming, and I knew right then and there that I made the right decision.
If it hadn't been for Mary Hoskins, there would not have been a William Smith sailing team. She really wanted to encourage my passion to attract other women who were interested in sailing and not just crewing for the Hobart men on the sailing team. We wanted to be our own skipper.
I'm honored and delighted to share some thoughts regarding Mary Hosking, my former colleague and my dearest friend. A long time ago in '71, when Mary was the chairperson of phys ed, athletics, and dance, she was looking to increase the size of her athletic department or phys ed department. She hired some very young, inexperienced, green college graduates. I was one of them. I don't know what my future would have held without Mary.
She helped us secure the cars that we used to drive to regattas from New York City down to Princeton University. She also gave us a contact across the lake where we could practice in the junior dinghies owned by the yacht club. Then she would check in with us after every regatta to see how we did and if there's anything she could do to help us.
She guided us. She let us take our own path. She encouraged us to increase the soundness of the student body, graduating strong physically, mentally, spiritually, and be able to take the challenges that lay before them.
She was so much more than a coach. She was a kind and thoughtful and a friend, and helped navigate her team, not just with tennis, but throughout their whole experience at the college. And I am so happy she's receiving this richly deserved honor.
An honor so well deserved, Mary. I only wish that you were here to see it for yourself, and it's long overdue. Thank you.
I miss her dearly. She died at a very early age, and I was able to spend the last few weeks with her for 4 or 5 days a week, bringing lunch to her and going over our old memories and old times. She was a humorist. She was Mother Mary to her tennis team, and she is greatly missed. Thank you, Mary, for all you've done. Thank you for looking down today and being proud of all your accomplishments. We love you.
Here to accept the award on behalf of Mary Hosking's family is the first head lacrosse coach for William Smith Lacrosse, and the parent of 4 graduates of these fine colleges, Patricia Price Genovese.
Woo, a lot of people. Okay. Okay, thank you. This is the award. Okay. All right. Okay. Thank you. Do you want to put it right there? Thank you very much. Thank you. It's so wonderful to see so many people here. Congratulations to Mary Hosking and also to Alan Frischman. Bill Hosking, Mary's stepson, was so delighted and overwhelmed to learn that his stepmom had received this distinguished award. Mary, during her time, was not only a wife, a mother, a coach, an administrator, and had many hats. Bill couldn't be here today because of health concerns, and I've been in touch with him for the last 7 days. But he extends his warmest regards and thanks all of you. And what a great place Hobart and William Smith College is. Thank you so much.
Good afternoon, everybody. I'm Lawrence Moultrie, class of 2004. You can hold the applause. I appreciate it. You know, I'm here celebrating my 20th year reunion. Honest to God, cannot believe it went by that fast. I am here as part of the DFA committee. I will tell you that this committee is near and dear to my heart. I am an educator. I learned how to be an educator from my family. My mom's an educator. I learned here at Hobart and William Smith colleges. I got a great education here. I am extremely proud of the presentation today. I would like to now invite Wes Perkins, who recently retired from the colleges after 46 years of teaching. That's worthy of an applause. I'm not going to tell you, I'm not going to cue you guys, but 46 years is worthy of an applause. So Wes, I'm going to invite you to the podium as we begin our recognition of Alan Fisherman, Professor I'm sorry, I did not mean to butcher your name. I'm sure it does, but I take pride in not butchering people's names as a principal, and I do it from time to time, and I know so I'm not even going to try to do it again. I'm just going to say it as Alan, but thank you for everything that you've done, Professor of Economics, who has joined the colleges in 1976 with scholarly interest in economic development, urbanization, and industrialization of countries in Africa. Come on up to the podium. Wes.
It's great to be here today, and no applause, please. I agree, and thank you for getting my name right. I make that mistake often about names, so you're in good company, I guess. It is truly an honor to be here today for this award for my longtime colleague, good friend, Alan Frischman. Yes, I've been here 46 years. I haven't quite retired. I'm still in my office. I got a few more days before they kick me out of the office. So, but it's been a long, I shouldn't say a long haul. It's been a long and unbelievably enjoyable time. My heart has been here for all 46 years. And for that whole time until Alan retired, I enjoyed his company and presence. I still do, as good friends. We live near each other and get together quite often. I'm quite pleased today to be invited as, I take it as a faculty representative, giving some remarks and comments from a faculty point of view. I'm pleased to be invited and provide these remarks for the award for Alan today. Without doubt, Alan has been a major contributor to Hobart and William Smith as an institution and to the lives of all our students, graduates for many years now. He arrived at HWS as a young professor of economics in 1976. He received his PhD from Northwestern University in economics, and I came on the scene here 2 years later. So that was in 1978, if you're counting. And at that time, Alan was, I would say from that time onward, we had a long run with Alan over the course of nearly 5 decades at HWS. And I had that entire time to observe Alan's work and to also experience Alan as a close personal friend. When I, when I first met Alan, we were in Trinity Hall. All the social sciences were in Trinity Hall. And I was in sociology up on the 3rd floor. Alan was at one corner office. I regretted moving to Stern only because I had to give up my lake view of the 3rd floor looking out on Seneca Lake. Alan was down in the other corner in a large office, but almost felt like in a basement, looking out on the quadrangle at the time. But even though we were in opposite ends and floors of the building, we managed to connect quite often. In part was there was no internet at that time. There was no online activity, no email. Everything took place through secretarial correspondence. We wrote things and they were typed again by the secretaries. And so you had to come to campus almost every day to get your work done. And we worked in the libraries and so forth, but also to get any kind of communication taken place, whether it was a memo or anything else. So we met frequently in the hallways of Trinity Hall and most often in the secretary's office. At the time, and spent many hours and hours in conversation casually in those moments. Well, I should say at the time when I met him, he had I think bushy hair and a sizable beard, and I was going to say he was maybe trimmer then, but I don't really think so anymore. I think retirement has worked its wonders and has been quite good for Alan in terms of staying in shape, and I'm envious of him in that regard. But anyway, so we met at the time, had many, many conversations. I quickly learned that he was not just a stereotypical economist teaching about macroeconomics, supply and demand curves, regression analysis, and market behavior, although he could and was doing all of that. He was also using his disciplinary skills in mathematics and economics along with his graduate research and personal experience in Africa to introduce students to what was then called the Third World and to support the emerging HWS goal of truly offering a global perspective and experience for our students. He did this not only in his economics courses, but also in our general and interdisciplinary curriculum, offering a range of courses where he taught about urban and regional economics, industrialization and urbanization in Africa, and economic globalization. He also led 7 HWS off-campus programs throughout his career, including 1 term in Israel, 1 in Geneva, Switzerland, 2 terms in London, and 3 terms in our Washington, D.C. program. And he also spent a semester at sea at the University of Pittsburgh program teaching college students about the world as they navigated literally around the world and around the globe at the time. And one of the most interesting and perhaps lesser known facts about Alan is that he can read, write, and speak Hausa, used in Nigeria and other parts of West Africa. So if you get a chance, engage him in a conversation in Hausa. Alan was always a steadfast faculty leader, not only in his department where he served as chair from 1983 to 1985, and again from 1998 to 2000, but a leader for the faculty at large, where he served as coordinator of the Urban Studies program from 1980 to 1983, associate provost in 1990, chair of the Committee on Faculty from 1991 to 1993, president of our local AAUP chapter in 1994 to 96, and presiding officer of the faculty from 2002 to 2004, and again from 2010 to 2012. That's a lot of faculty leadership and a lot of committees to endure, I assure you. Truly, Alan would answer the call for service and receive the support of his colleagues throughout his entire career. Those are the accolades, yes, and there are many more, and you'll hear many more, I'm sure. But the character of this man is what I want to focus on as most important. This is where my remarks shift from being and listing accomplishments for an Oscar award to more of a love letter to my dear friend. Here is where I want to emphasize how Alan literally embodies the motto of HWS that HWS has taken on in the last 2 decades about preparing students for lives of consequence. Alan has truly modeled this ideal in his character and in his deeds, as reflected in so many different forms of volunteer service. I want to mention just a few wide-ranging examples here. First, his devotion to public service through his 3 years spent as a Peace Corps volunteer teaching math with Nigerian secondary school students. That was prior to coming to HWS. At HWS, his tireless efforts, a second example, raising consciousness about and funds to help address the problem of world hunger that was just emerging in consciousness in this nation and elsewhere. And he initiated collections for Oxfam International with appeals to HWS faculty and staff, and helped create local events where students could give up a meal for a cause. And this wasn't just a one-time thing. He would do this year after year after year. Third example, Alan sequentially became a surrogate father to four Nigerian, if I get the number right, Nigerian students who came to HWS. I remember one of them was a student of mine, Zainab, I remember, and 4 of them who came to HWS, and he sheltered and watched over them throughout their entire years here and thereafter. So that was quite an additional family expansion and gracious deed of amazing generosity. A fourth example, in faculty meetings, where decisions about faculty regulations, salaries, and evaluations of curricular matters were at stake in heated debates, he always attended the faculty meetings, which was an amazing feat. And he respectfully took part. He always took part, probably no surprise to many of you, but he did so respectfully and with great thoughtfulness and concern. And a fifth example, service to Temple Sinai and his local community as a member of the Board of Trustees for 10 years and president of the board for 3 of those years. I know that Temple Sinai has been a leader and progressive advocate for social justice and service to those in need in the wider community of Rochester. Lastly, I want to add that much of the respect and love that I have for Alan comes from what I learned in commuting more than 10 years with him. So if you can think about having conversations with Alan, and so think about that for an hour every morning and an hour every afternoon that we commuted in together and out together from Rochester for more than 10 years. I can't remember exactly how many years it was, but we did so on a regular basis until our schedules would change, and then on an irregular basis up until his retirement. We talked about lots of things. We talked about politics. We talked about families. We talked about religion. We debated about politics. We debated about religion. We didn't debate about the family side. And of course, we debated about HWS policies and what was going on, what should be done, what was wrong, and what was everybody else was doing, and all of these kinds of things. We agreed on a lot, but we disagreed. Maybe that was Freudian. We disagreed on a few things, but it was all in a clear understanding of certainly Alan, and I think he understood myself, being well-intended in what we talked about and thoughtful and respectful about what others were doing and saying. So to sum up, I want to say that the characteristics, the personal characteristics that I've drawn in all those conversations and all of my experience and time I've spent with Alan is I tried to come up with a few words that distilled it. And the ones I came up with was tenacious. Tenacious in defense of justice and fairness, whatever the topic. Devoted to his friends and family. Respectful in considering differences of opinions of his adversaries. And kind and giving of his resources to people in general, and selfless in the pursuit of helping those in need. That is, I believe, the epitome of leading lives. The epitome of leading lives of consequence. That's our motto. That's Alan Frischman. I deeply love you, and for all that, I'm grateful. Thank you so much. I want to introduce now Aaron Frischman, who's coming up to speak. He's a graduate of Hobart and Hobart College and son of Alan Frischman, and I'm sure he's got a few stories to tell himself.
I wish I could have memorized my entire talk, but I didn't. I'm sorry. Okay. Thanks, Wes, for those kind words. Good afternoon, everyone. I have the honor and privilege to introduce Professor Emeritus of Economics, Alan Frischman, as recipient of the 2024 Hobart and William Smith Distinguished Faculty Award. This introduction is particularly special for me, as I'm both an alum of Hobart class of 2000 and Alan's son. As I reflect on this moment, being a father myself, it's not lost on me that in life, parents are often the ones acknowledging the accolades and achievements of their children, but it's not always the reverse. Knowing this, I'm grateful for the opportunity to be one of many people today recognizing and honoring my father's 40-plus year career at the colleges. Admittedly, I never took any classes from my father while I was a student here, but even absent this experience, my family had a first-hand seat to witness not only the passion he brought to his teaching, but the commitments he made to his students inside and outside the classroom. In preparation for today, I reviewed all of the nominations that were submitted to the selection committee so I could capture his students' perspective and why they felt he was deserving of this award. Nomination after nomination, it was evident that my father meant a great deal to his students, and both his teachings and relationships with these individuals continue to resonate with them long after their time at the colleges. It should be noted that nominations were made by students from multiple decades, ranging from the early 1980s until just prior to his retirement in 2017. Alan was commonly noted as an educator, a teacher, a mentor and advisor, and a role model. Many students noted that their studies and relationships with my father played a key factor in their personal growth and professional development, and they lauded his consistent encouragement and support during and after college. Using economics as a discipline, it was clear Alan challenged his students to think through difficult socioeconomic problems, both domestically and globally. Other nominations mentioned how he encouraged and championed his female students, in particular, to embrace economics and continue studies in the discipline, even though women were a visible minority. As a son, I was beyond touched to read these comments, and it's worth sharing a small fraction of the submissions with you. From Meg Goucher, class of 2014, Alan brought me from a student with ideas to a published professional, advocate for justice, and he encouraged students to stand for what they believe. Alex Kaplan, class of 2001, said he fostered my love of economics and markets. He was a member of the HWS community in and out of the classroom, and I always appreciated seeing him. I hope I've made him proud, and he is deserving of this recognition. Phyllis Blau, of class of 1985. From the minute I heard his first lecture, I knew I wanted to major in economics. His presentation was logical, analytical, and so compelling. There were not that many William Smith students who majored in economics at the time, and I often felt a little isolated being in the minority. However, Dr. Frischman never made me feel that way. Emily Reese, of class of 1997. Dr. Frischman made economics accessible across disciplines. As a woman interested in international policy, he also created a classroom where all voices were honored. And last, Peter Brown, of class of 2001. From a warm, well-appointed classroom amid the picturesque Finger Lakes region, Professor Frischman transported our minds to other parts of the world. Through leading our inquiry into complex and systemic problems related to poverty, inequality, and stymied economic growth that span generations, he not only helped us understand others' worldview, but also comprehend and conjure up possible policy solutions, or at least better policy prescriptions. Alan played a vital role in the lives of so many. At the same time, I thought these comments really shouldn't be surprising to anyone who knows him because, of course, this is the Alan Frischman I've known my entire life. My father has always been a teacher and mentor through and through. There was little difference from Alan Frischman, the professor, to Alan Frischman, the family man. In many ways, he approached fatherhood and raising children in very similar ways to how he taught his students. From my perspective and personal experience, he always carried himself with a common purpose: to help mold good humans who were actively observant in the world they lived in, empathetic to others, and who could think critically. However, it was also no secret how much joy and satisfaction he received from teaching. He told me years ago how his passion for education blossomed during the time he lived in Nigeria in the late 1960s. After graduating from City College of New York and prior to attending Northwestern University for his graduate studies, Alan joined the Peace Corps as a volunteer and spent 3 years of his life teaching secondary level mathematics to teenagers in a small northern Nigerian village called Birnin Kudu. Here he developed his love and appreciation not only for teaching and connecting with students, but for Nigerian and more generally African culture, which, if anyone knows him, remains a key part of his identity. I think I speak for many people when I say that I'm thankful that the colleges provided an opportunity for him to develop courses and curricula to share his experiences and expertise of third world economies, and in particular African economies, allowing him to keep his connection to Africa and Nigeria in particular alive and well. Some people may not know this, but this is not the first official teaching honor that my father has received. About 8 years ago, and nearly 50 years after his Peace Corps volunteer experience, Alan was contacted by some of these same secondary level students, now in their 50s, who studied math with him in Birnin Kudu. They were aware of a trip he had pre-planned to visit Nigeria at the time, and he was able to connect with these students, somewhere between 15 and 20 of them. My father was beyond touched as they presented him with an honorary recognition for his teaching and thanked him for all they learned and how their knowledge of mathematics helped them achieve in their lives. In many ways, this was not dissimilar to how we are honoring him today. Hobart William Smith has always been more than just a place of employment for Alan. He always tried to share, in some way, shape, or form, the wonderful attributes of this institution with as many people as much as possible. From the time I was very young, we collectively as a family attended and participated in many on-campus events. We have accompanied our father in semester abroad programs, we have attended important lectures and academic events, and we have hosted students in our home. I have a vivid memory from when I was only 10 or 11 years old and joined my father as he traveled with the Two Cities class run by Professors McGuire and Spates on their annual New York City excursion because he had thought the experience would be an interesting and educational opportunity for me. He was right. Not long thereafter, we had the opportunity to live and experience living abroad as Alan and Professor Jim Spates took students on a program to London. These experiences clearly had an impact on my life, and I wasn't even a student of his. Through every experience I was fortunate to be a part of, it was clear that this place meant so much more to my father than a job. It was a place of community, friendship, intellectual curiosity, and growth. As engaging and easygoing as his teaching approach may sound in some of the alumni comments, my father also demanded academic excellence from his students. Even when my wife and I attended HWS, we were often told by friends how demanding the material was in his classes. However, this was never seen by anyone as a negative, and no one ever said he was unfair with his grades. From everything I know and have learned, Alan's demeanor and his approach to his students accomplished the opposite. It fostered respect and admiration. Alan demanded a lot from his students, not just academically, but as participants in class. I know that the high expectations for his students were driven by the potential he saw in everyone and his desire to help students achieve at their highest level. I was particularly struck by another comment from an alum who wrote about their independent study that they had taken with my father. The first writing assignment, this is her statement, I'm sorry. The first writing assignment that I submitted was slammed on his desk, not angrily, but emphatically. Yet there was so much red ink, his comments on my writing may have exceeded my writing itself. There was no grade. He didn't embarrass me. He simply took the time to critique every sentence, and we discussed how all of my arguments could be improved. I was taken aback at first, but this was Alan's style, always demanding that my writing and analysis improve as the project progressed. I'm eternally grateful for his drive to better not only his students' academic prowess, but also the Geneva community as a whole. Alan was acutely aware that the discipline of economics, while at its core a social science relying on academically tested theories, had real-life applications that were just as important, if not more important, to understand. Students explained how he could take complicated economic concepts and make them more understandable through real-world scenarios and examples. He encouraged students to participate in experiential and off-campus programs as much as possible, even organizing and leading several of these programs. His wanderlust led him to teach multiple cohorts of students in off-campus programs spanning the globe, from the Semester at Sea program to Israel, London, Geneva, Switzerland, and Washington, D.C. As I mentioned before, for those trips where my family was fortunate enough to join him, we were able to learn from him ourselves. On a professional level, throughout his tenure at the colleges, my father did not shy away from leadership positions. Always with the intent to improve the institution for both faculty and students, he served as chair of the economics department, chaired the committee on faculty, participated in hiring committees for key faculty and administration at the colleges, and helped develop and implement the basis for the faculty retirement plan structure that I believe is currently implemented by the colleges. His desire to educate others extended far beyond the classroom itself as well. Along with leading off-campus programs, Alan organized and ran extracurricular experiences on campus. For example, many may recall, as Wes had mentioned, the annual Oxfam Hunger Drive and dinner that he would coordinate on campus. To give you a sense of this event in a nutshell, the event was open to only something like 100 participants or so, and everyone had to pay a small fee, such as $10 or $20. However, this fee only guaranteed admission. Upon arrival, individuals would draw numbers, and depending on your number, you might be lucky enough to be included in the top 5% of those individuals who would receive a full steak dinner at a fully set comfortable table. A second, small percentage, perhaps the next 10 to 15%, would receive a modest chicken dinner at a more modest table. However, the remaining 80 to 85% of the group would receive rice and water and were relegated to sitting on the floor. This exercise in exemplary learning helps students understand and conceptualize the gross inequality of wealth on the global spectrum. It helps students understand that, in many cases, the randomness and luck of where one may have been born, or in this case, what number they pulled, could completely affect their social and financial status. Having participated in this experience more than once, I can say that it had a memorable impact upon myself and my peers. To me, though, I think one of his most commendable qualities is the level of pride he exhibited in his students and his appreciation in their non-academic achievements. He always made and still makes considerable efforts to support his students while in college and even beyond. I know of countless occasions where he stayed late on campus to catch a student's artistic performance, whether it was a koshari dance or some other musical or theatrical show. Even on days my father didn't have to be in Geneva, there was always a student to meet with, an event to attend, or a colleague to support. He would attend as many sporting events as he could for his student athletes, frequently catching them after the game for a chat. He always appreciated and still appreciates learning about alums as they continue on their pathways in life. To this day, he reaches out to countless alums, and they to him, and whenever possible, he will almost always make the effort to visit with them in person. Even on his 40th wedding anniversary trip to Hawaii with his entire family, where our first stop was to meet with an alum at a coffee shop. I could not tell you how many former students my father remains in touch with over the decades, but I can assure you it is numerous. They are successful economists, corporate and financial executives, lawyers, social activists, teachers, former professional football players, among others. I've seen how these connections continue to invigorate and excite him. It is great to see and understand how much respect and adoration his students have for him, and how they continue to reflect on his teachings and mentorship even to this day. If there ever was a perfect testament to the success of an educator, in my mind, this would be it. This is what it's all about. In his post-HWS life, Alan still serves as a vocal and enthusiastic ambassador for HWS. He is always willing to be an advocate for HWS and serve as a resource for future students interested in learning. In short, Alan emulates the best of what an educator is and what this institution has to offer. He has made an important and everlasting imprint on the colleges and on the lives of so many who have worked and studied here. So I ask you to please join me in recognizing Alan Frischman as the 2024 recipient of the Hobart and William Smith College's Distinguished Faculty Award. One second. Sorry, before we give him the award, there are a few others who would also like to say a few words, so if I can call your attention to the screen.
Congratulations, Alan Frischman, on this well-deserved and long overdue Distinguished Faculty Award from Hobart and William Smith Colleges. Your impact on me and my experience at the colleges was probably the most memorable of all the instructors I had.
Professor Frischman, what an impact he had. Not just my collegiate career, but my whole life, my career as an educator, going on 20 years now.
He was a truly inspirational mentor to me. I came all the way from Sri Lanka, and in my freshman year, he really helped and guided me in my time at HWS. So I would like to take this opportunity to congratulate him.
So thank you for everything that you have done for not just me, but the hundreds, if not thousands, of students that have passed through the classroom and imparting your knowledge, your world vision, and mostly your kindness. You're just a beautiful human being, and I'm very excited that you've been recognized by your peers and by former students and faculty.
The lessons and the engagement from those experiences and that classwork really kind of set me up. You know, not only were you a great professor and academic were just always so kind and ethical.
Your knowledge, dedication, and enthusiasm for what you do was so evident to those of us who took your classes. So it's no surprise to me that you're being celebrated today. Cheers to you.
What a well-deserved honor. I am so happy for you. As I reflect back on my years at Hobart, man, you were such a calming force on campus for me. Because of you and your teaching methods, I never once felt that I wouldn't make it. What a gift you gave me. So cheers to you.
Professor Fishman, first and foremost, we wanted to extend our sincere congratulations on this much-deserved award.
It's a true testament to the passion and dedication that we've been lucky to experience firsthand.
Congratulations, congratulations, congratulations. This is the most well-deserved award that I think that the organization could bestow upon you. It's been a long time coming, and again, the sincere and deepest heartfelt thanks for everything that you've done for us, the impact that you had, and honestly, the memories and the experiences that we carry on with us from here on out.
Congratulations, you deserve all the best. Enjoy.
Thank you for who you were when I was in college and for making my experience there so incredible, as well as all the other students that preceded me and came after me. And this award is so well deserved, and I'm thrilled for you and honored to be part of your ceremony.
Hi, I'm New York State Senator Jeremy Cooney and proud Hobart graduate from the class of 2004, and probably most importantly, a former student of Professor Frischman. Congratulations, Professor Frischman, on your Distinguished Faculty Award, so well deserved. I remember sitting in your classroom for micro and macroeconomics and just so grateful for the level of engagement, of teaching, even a guy like me who could use a little extra help. I appreciated your methodology and your commitment to your students. That's what it's all about at Hobart and William Smith Colleges, and you exemplify that and are so deserving of today's award. Congratulations.
Thank you. I'm not sure what I can say after all of that. What can I add? I'm very touched. It's really been wonderful. And I will not give my talk in Hausa, although I think I might be able to do that, but I won't do that. I arrived here in 1976, as everybody has said. I only had a 2-year contract when I arrived, and I didn't know that I would be staying this long, but I ended up staying 41 years and retired in 2017. Over all those years, I taught almost every semester macroeconomic theory, urban economics, economic development of third world countries, and math econ, and must have taught thousands of students over those 41 years, because my classes were always very full. I guess the students weren't afraid of me after all. But I also, the thing that really I found wonderful at Hobart and William Smith was the fact that during most of those years, they had bidisciplinary and multidisciplinary classes. And so I taught in so many of those. And the thing that was wonderful for me was not only did I learn subject matter from the person I was teaching with, but I also learned teaching techniques, which I then adopted in my own classes. And so it was wonderful. But the other thing is that I got to interact and meet so many other students outside of the economics department. And you can't always do that at big universities because you're stuck in your own department. But here, I was able to do that with so many students across the curriculum, across the colleges. And so that was, for me, a wonderful experience as well. And there are other ways, too, which I'll get to in a minute. So when I first got here, they had Gen Ed courses, which taught first-year students in groups of 6 or 7 faculty. And so I worked with a whole bunch of faculty when I first arrived here to teach those classes. And so I taught basically over the years with people in sociology, political science, history, physics, chemistry, religious studies. And so I interacted with faculty all over campus in the classroom, which was a unique and interesting experience for me. I also taught a first-year seminar for many, many years called Africa, Myths and Reality. And those students, most of whom would come sheepishly to me afterwards because I became their advisor, and they'd say, I don't want to be an economics major. And I'd say, that's wonderful, that's fantastic, because imagine if all the world, if everybody wanted to be an economics person, that would be terrible. So follow what your interests are. You know, if you like art, if you like biology, if you like history, if you like whatever else, follow what your own interests are. But I was advisor for the first year for all of those students. I also taught in this course called Ways of Knowing, which is probably one of the most unique classes that Hobart has ever had, Hobart and William Smith has ever had, and maybe in the country. It was a very unique, interesting course, which included information from all three divisions, science, social science, and humanities. And David Craig and I, in the chemistry department, we coordinated that for 2 of those 5 years, and that was a wonderful experience with probably 40 faculty involved because it was a class for all first-year students to take. And so I met with many, many faculty in all kinds of ways and many, many, many students in all kinds of ways. And most of all, I taught a course called the Third World Experience with Professor Gabru Tureke in the history department. I think we taught that for at least 20 years, and that was one of the courses that was alluded to here. And it was a wonderful experience, and I hope that the students learned a great deal from it and appreciated it, which I think they did. I also did a couple other things which people have alluded to, and a couple that weren't mentioned, is that in the 1980s I organized and ran an elder hostel program at Hobart and William Smith, which ran for 5 years and brought seniors to the colleges to get to know the colleges and hopefully send their grandchildren to Hobart and William Smith. But it was an amazing, interesting, good program. And I also ran this Oxfam Fast for over 25 years, which, let me explain a little bit more what that was, because I think Aaron talked about the Oxfam Banquet, which was something else. But the Oxfam Fast was around Thanksgiving time. We asked students at Hobart and William Smith if they'd be willing to give up one of their meals, and the proceeds from that meal would get donated to Oxfam America. And we often got 1,000 students to do that. And over the 25 years, we donated much more than at least $60,000 over that time period. And it was a good learning experience for students to realize that sometimes people don't have enough to eat, and they can play a role in getting some money to people for famine relief. But then we also did this Oxfam Banquet, which is what Aaron described, which was another way to raise money for Oxfam, which we did. Probably did that half a dozen times. I also, which has gotten lost, unfortunately, I started the mini college at Hobart and William Smith, which in the early 2000s, rather, 200s. I don't go back that far. In the early 2000s, I started a mini college, which was a program that I ran for 3 years by myself, even though I was trying to get the provost office to take it over from me, which they finally did. But it was a program that on Parents' Weekend and on Reunion Weekend, faculty would give a whole series of, a whole variety of courses which parents could take. And while their kids were still sleeping till 10 or 11 o'clock in the morning, the parents could go and take a class and hear from some faculty on campus. And it was incredibly well received. I'm a little bit disappointed, but understand that it got eliminated during COVID times because people weren't coming here in the same way that they were before that. So it's something that could be revived, and it was incredibly successful. And it was true on Alumni Weekend, too. So alums could come back and take a class from one of the faculty for a whole variety of different subjects. There were probably half a dozen or 8 or 10 of them that were given. You could choose which one you wanted to go to. The other thing is that I did here, which was for me gratifying and also got me involved with lots of students outside economics, was the 7 abroad programs that I was able to lead. The first one was in Israel, which was a long, long time ago when things were very calm in Israel. And I did that with Mike Dubkowski, who I think is here somewhere, which was a wonderful, wonderful program. And then I did London twice, once with Jim Spates and once by myself. And then a program in Geneva, the other Geneva, Switzerland, which was also very exciting. And then 3 times in Washington, D.C., twice with Craig Rimmerman and once by myself. And so, it's, you know, on those kinds of programs, you get to interact with students in a whole different way because you see them on a daily basis. You take trips with them. You go out drinking with them and doing other things. And so you get to really know them in a whole different way. I also wanted to recognize Hobart and William Smith, which has always been helpful and allowed me to do my research in Nigeria, and got research awards and awards to go to research conferences. And so I think I got 5 awards over the time period, and I kept going back to Nigeria to do more and more research over the years. So let me just conclude by saying that I've had a wonderful experience here, and the 41 years went by quite quickly. The students who I interacted with have been wonderful, and I enjoyed teaching all my classes. I enjoyed the students, and it's wonderful to hear from students that they enjoyed coming to my classes and enjoyed learning what I taught and appreciated me. And I think for a professor or a teacher, there's probably nothing more gratifying than to hear appreciation from your former students. And I did get that, as Aaron mentioned, I even got that in Nigeria, to my surprise. 18 students grabbed me and took me to dinner and told me how wonderful I was, which was always nice. Always nice to hear. And one more footnote, and that is, I knew Mary. I remember Mary quite well. She was a wonderful person. And interestingly, her husband taught in the economics department and died suddenly, and I was hired to replace him, which is an interesting twist on all of this. But I just wanted to add that at the end because she's obviously getting this well-deserved award as well. So thank you all very, very much for coming, and I really appreciate it, and thank you again.
Well, thank you, Alan, for those wonderful remarks. Thank you for the opportunity to work together here, certainly, and I'm delighted to welcome you. Sorry. Oh, I'm sorry. Ladies and gentlemen, Pat McGuire. Come on up here, Pat. Come on up here. I know you're shy, but come on up here. Take a microphone. Come on. Come on. Everyone wants to hear Pat McGuire. Professor of Economics, interim provost, interim president. I may leave again. You can come back in.
No, don't you dare. I just couldn't avoid this opportunity. Alan Frischman and his family have meant the world to me and my family. I love them very much. I hope they know that. But there was one moment when I thought this would never happen. I went to New York when Alan was just hired, and we were having a great time. I forget what we were doing, but we were enjoying it. And we went to Barnes & Noble and looking for books and all that kind of stuff, and I was having a good time. I was up on about the 3rd floor. And I looked down the bookshelf, and there's Alan. arguing with somebody. They were going at it. And it was this kind of thing and that kind of thing and none of this stuff. I said, well, who did we hire here? So I saw Alan shortly before, and I said, Alan, what was going on? Who are you talking to? Oh, that was just my dad.
The rebuttal from Professor Alan Frischman.
To be fair, we went into Barnes & Noble's to look for books, and we were all looking for books, and suddenly I looked across the room, the book where the books were, and my parents were there. I had no idea they were in New York or that they were there. They had no idea I was there. And so it was one of these amazing coincidental experiences. And it wasn't quite like Pat described it, but
Any other remarks? Aaron, any more? No, we're good? Well, welcome. Welcome to this wonderful award. Welcome back to Reunion. We're thrilled to have you here. Chevy Devaney, who's our leader in all things alums, has put together with a team a great weekend of events, and we warmly welcome you back here. As I look out the window, the weather is the weather. This gives all new meaning to the reign of Mark Guerin. But I thank Bill and Melissa for your leadership with Tempe on this committee, and I congratulate you both on the very good judgment of sending two impressive daughters to Hobart and William Smith. Emily, where's Emily? Current student right there, so thank you for your leadership, certainly. Lawrence, welcome back to your 20th. If you think you're feeling old, coming back to your 20th reunion, I remember you when you were a student, so how do you think I feel coming? But how proud are we to have you back, speaking so beautifully and doing critical work as an assistant principal. Congratulations to you for your good work, and thank you. Well, I love this award. Mary and I love reunions, and we love coming to this award because it says and speaks to the very best of the culture of Hobart and William Smith, where students themselves, now graduates, record and think back over the arc of their lives and nominate and bring forth their teachers, their mentors, people that were important to them during their days at Hobart and William Smith for this prestigious award. So I thank the committee for pulling this together. We have caught up a little bit from COVID times, which is great, which has had burdens for all of you, and I welcome you all back, my senior staff colleagues, certainly President McGuire, Provost McGuire, Professor McGuire. Just two brief reflections about these great award recipients. And I thank Sally for kicking us off. Congratulations on your 50th reunion. 50 is the new 40, just so you know. It's the new math. But of speaking about Mary Hosking, who I did not have the privilege of knowing, obviously, from my time here, but certainly I've heard so much about over the years with her late husband and his leadership and civic roles in Geneva, and the distinction she brought to William Smith athletics and to the entire Hobart and William Smith community. While I didn't know her personally, anyone who hired Pat Genovese and Alice Ann Wilbur is worthy of our praise, I would say. Period, stop. Good judgment. Because they were generous in their comments about taking a chance on them, which by today's standards seems respectfully preposterous. But what a great lesson Mary Hosking gave to all of us now in other roles of bringing forth people and taking a chance, putting students first, which is at the centerpiece of Alan's leadership and role as a professor here as well. So to Mary. And it was great to celebrate the Heron Society's 40th anniversary earlier this semester, when we recognized these trailblazers like Rebecca Fox and Mary Hosking and others who came forth. But Mary serving with 5 presidents and 7 deans. We come and go. But that leadership, that role has placed us in the very enviable and fortunate position we are today. So Pat, I thank you for your remarks and those that were nominating Mary and submitted, because she will join the literally Mount Rushmore upstairs of portraits of faculty members who've walked the halls of our academic spaces and made it a better place. Alan Frischman, I did have the very good fortune of knowing and working with, and we shared a fair amount in common from our very first days here. He, of course, was a returned Peace Corps volunteer, and I came here to Geneva, having most recently served as director of the Peace Corps. Alan left in 2017. I left in 2017. Alan? Stern Hall's right over there. I think you just lobbied everyone for the mini college, if I heard that right. I'd like to, but I've been kicking around here long enough to remember when Alan came into my office in Coxall with that very good idea for the mini college, which, if memory serves me right, Alan, you had seen at Skidmore College, right, Ronnie? Right. You didn't steal it. It's a best practice. It's how higher ed works, right? So it was a very good idea. So I'd like to announce the new president of Mini College, Alan Frischman, to Aaron, there are moments at these ceremonies where we've loved the words of our graduates and faculty colleagues, but I don't think anyone will forget the memorable talk you gave about your dad. That was beautiful. That was heartfelt. It was thoughtful and sincere, and I thank you for that. You bring honor to your degree from Hobart College. You bring honor to your parents and to all of us. So welcome back. We're glad you're here. Thank you. And my gosh, Wes Perkins for 46 years here in his beautiful love letter to Alan. He distinguished this place for so many years in a baccalaureate address this year upon his retirement that was truly memorable. So I thank him for that and for all the memories and his great summation of Alan's tenacious, kind spirit, all that he brought here, and devoted and respectful, all the great words that he reflected on. But to me, what Alan brought to this campus was pretty straightforward, and it goes back, perhaps, if you excuse, to his Peace Corps days. That teacher in him that started in the Peace Corps, but that sense of the world, that sense of global citizenship, that sense of other peoples and cultures and traditions. And the genius of the Peace Corps is the third goal of the Peace Corps is to bring the world back home for every returned Peace Corps volunteer. And for 41 years, Alan Frischman honored that third goal. In the classroom, outside of the classroom, with Oxfam, with fasts, with those bowls, with walking around this campus, as I saw you do frequently, rolled up map of Africa. He brought the world back home to Geneva and to our students. So for all those reasons, I thank him. And lastly, Wes sort of dressed it up when he said he was a faculty leader. That's a very sanitized term for members of the faculty. Because when you're sitting here as a president, Pat McGuire might even agree. Faculty leader has all sorts of implications. But in Alan Frischman, we had a faculty leader really without peer who was kind and fair, and his devotion to his colleagues was unquestioned. His commitment to academic excellence was unyielding. In his mentoring, in his teaching of a very new, young, inexperienced president in 1999 is very much appreciated. Thank you very much.
Good afternoon, everyone. You're just also beautiful to look at. I always really enjoy this program. So on behalf of the Hobart Alumni Association and the William Smith Alumni Association, specifically the DFA committee who worked very hard on this program, we're delighted that you could join us today.